Nutritional science has changed drastically during my short life. I used to be a health nut, and that used to be considered bad. I always found it funny that they would call people that want to be healthy nuts and people that want to take drugs normal. But that's the industry we live in. Let me take you through this story. When I was a child, I was always athletic. So I wasn't a very good athlete, so I was always looking for the edge, something that I could do that my competitors weren't doing. And during the time that I was a child, Jack LaLanne was very popular, and he was an idol of mine. He worked hard. He worked out 2 hours a day. He lifted weights for an hour and then swam for an hour. And he did all these magical things in his life. He tugged boats by swimming. He was basically the old-fashioned strongman, and I really liked him and I admired him. And I had some books of his, and he had this philosophy that if it grew out of the ground, you should eat it. If it came off a tree, you should eat it. If it had parents, you should kill it and eat it. But if it came in a box, don't eat it. If it's processed, don't eat it. If it was made in a lab, don't eat it. It was actually such a simplified, overly simplified version of a diet that it made sense to me, that if it was processed, it's bad. If it was made from nature, it's good. And it worked for Jack. I was gonna go ahead and adopt that philosophy. But then as I got older, I got into long distance cycling. And at the time, kind of in the 80s, when you think of the 1984 Olympics, carbo loading was a very popular thing. And if you don't know what carbo loading is, what you would do is a week before your race, you would essentially start starving your body of carbohydrates. This sounds very familiar to today, but what you would do is you take about 3 days and all you would eat is a chicken breast. And that's basically it. Eggs, chicken breast, but only protein. And the idea is that your body would start starving from a lack of carbohydrates. And so your glycogen stores would be diminished in your liver and kidneys. And as a result of that, because your body thinks it's gonna die because it's not getting enough carbohydrates, it's essentially doing a mini keto diet. And then your body reacts in such a way that it says, holy cow, if this guy gets any carbohydrates in his body, I need to store even more of it. So you can almost super saturate your liver and your muscles of glycogen so that when you entered the race on, let's say, a Saturday, you had more glycogen than you did the previous week. So you take about 3 days and basically starve yourself of carbohydrates, and the night before your main event, what would you do? You'd have a big plate of pasta, and you would just gorge on this pasta. And the idea was you're just filling up the tank. Well, looking back, that was pretty stupid, but it was the in thing. So carbohydrates were king. That's what was the fuel that made an athlete go faster. So as a youngster, when I was 14, 15 years old, I literally lived on pasta, Fig Newtons, and Gatorade. And there was nothing more fun than going out on a Saturday morning and riding your bike for just hours and hours and carrying some Gatorade and Fig Newtons. Now, having said that, the Gatorade was probably full of sugar back then, not high fructose corn syrup. It tasted different. It used to taste good, and now it doesn't taste good to me. And Fig Newtons were just the magical cookie that were just super tasty. Then, of course, there was Rocky Balboa. And I was someone who was always struggling to gain weight. So I would lift weights, and when I saw Rocky for the first time and he drank 6 eggs in the morning raw, guess what I did? You betcha. If it worked for Rocky Balboa, it was gonna work for me. Of course, I never gained a pound. And it's amazing looking back that I didn't die of a disease. But you know what? Made you stronger. What didn't kill you made you stronger. So I just drank raw eggs. I put them in milkshakes. I was crazy. Then I got on a kick when I was a kid, through college as well, that I used to eat sardines on Thomas's English muffins. And I thought more omega-3s, more protein, fish was good for you. And I was able to stomach sardines and English muffins. My wife laughs at it now because I just can't take sardines. But that was my childhood. That's what I learned about nutrition as a kid. Now let's fast forward into my chiropractic education, where we had about 10 semesters of nutritional training. Most people don't realize this, but I had a friend that went to medical school at the same time I was going to chiropractic school, and he was very proud of his school because they actually taught him nutrition. He had one semester, one class of nutrition. Meanwhile, I had all the biochemistry, the chemistry labs, learning about nutrition and things like that. And at the time, the zone diet was just getting popular. This was formulated by a guy named Barry Sears, and this was the first diet that I ever learned about that actually in my mind was a little confusing, although it made sense, to restrict certain healthy foods in the name of controlling insulin. And the short story behind the zone diet was also known as the 30-30-40. So you would eat 30% of your calories from protein, 30% from fat, and 40% from carbohydrates. And what Barry Sears, who was a PhD scientist trying to figure out the cure for heart disease, discovered was in order to cure heart disease or manage it well, you have to control your insulin. And this sounds very similar to what everybody's talking about now. Well, he believed and found that there was a zone where you eat just enough protein and just enough fat and just enough carbohydrates to keep you in this perfect zone of perfect physiological harmony. And if you went outside the zone, you were either too little carbohydrates, too much carbohydrates, too little protein, too much. And what he did was he figured out a calculation of exactly how much protein we need per day. It started with protein, and to calculate how many grams of protein we need, and based upon that, there was a particular amount of fat, and then the combination of carbohydrates kept our body in good physiological balance. But there was one thing that bothered me about the zone diet, and that was he tried to tell people to restrict carrots and bananas. And of course, bananas are a staple in a cyclist diet. Bananas are the perfect food. First of all, they're prepackaged. You put them in your pocket, and they have a tremendous amount of carbohydrates and sugars to keep you going. I mean, a banana is a great food, a healthy food for cycling. And carrots, I mean, I was following Jack LaLanne. I was making juice. I had a Jack LaLanne juicer. And my favorite juice used to be carrot, apple, celery. And I remember this. It was 8 carrots, 1 apple, and 2 pieces of celery. And it tasted so fantastic. So I believed that I was doing something healthy. But according to Barry Sears, when you take a carrot and you extract the fiber from the carrot, then it's just essentially too much carbohydrate and it spikes your insulin. And that's what the diet was all about. Interestingly enough, the zone diet was primarily to control diabetes and improve heart disease. But at the time, the Atkins diet was getting popular as well. And so there was this war of what's the best diet to lose weight. Well, then CrossFit started, and CrossFit as a company kind of endorsed the zone diet. So the zone diet was the most important. Lastly, the zone diet was very influential for me because it talked about healthy fats and how you're trying to stay away from saturated fats and trying to eat more monounsaturated fats. So avocados, macadamia nuts, fish oil, omega-3s were a very important component of the zone diet. Well, fast forward to now, and who the hell knows what's going on now? I mean, the diet wars are freaking crazy right now, at least what I see on the internet. And the reason why was because when I was a child, when I was in chiropractic school, the only way to learn about diet was essentially to read books. So you had to buy a book. The Barry Sears, the Zone Diet was a national bestseller. Atkins Diet, national bestseller, things like this. Vegetarianism was popular. Vegans were, I think it was just a lot of extremism in that case. But now, basically everybody has a voice. Any Tom, Dick, and Harry can use their cell phone and become a YouTube star and be influential. I mean, shit, man. All you need is a pair of, abs, right? And you could be the next Thomas DeLure. Well, now I think the current dietary change that's going to occur in the future is what diet can create more nitric oxide in the body. Nitric oxide is going to be the name of the game in the future. And this is what I foresee, is that the more we can open up our arteries, the more we can allow our arteries to become pliable, right there you're solving many problems. High blood pressure, dementia, you're solving erection dysfunctions. And cardiovascular disease, one of the biggest risks of cardiovascular disease is high blood pressure. This is why blood pressure is so vitally important, and it's a good barometer. If you have good blood pressure, it's very likely you're actually healthy in many aspects of your life as well. When it comes to dementia and brain dysfunctions and memory loss, if we can oxygenate our body and oxygenate our brain and open up blood vessels so there's not less blood getting to the brain, we're going to do much better. So what is involved in increasing more nitric oxide into our body? There's a number of things. Eating foods that are high in the nutrients that we need to improve nitric oxide. You've got all different types of melons, like watermelon, red watermelon, that is, yellow watermelon, cucumbers, cantaloupe, you've got squash, you've got turkey breasts, you've got fish, you've got pork, pumpkin seeds, soybeans, peanuts. These types of foods can increase our pliability of our arteries because they have certain nutrients in them. L-arginine and L-citrulline are amino acids that are necessary to produce more nitric oxide. If you don't eat these foods, if you're on a diet that's very restrictive where you're only eating certain foods, then you may lose weight, which would further lower your blood pressure, but you're not really becoming as optimal as possible. And like I said, when I was a kid, Jack LaLanne was probably the most influential person that I thought of. And what did he say? If it came from the ground, eat it. If it grew from a tree, eat it. If it walked on this planet, kill it and eat it. Anything else? Don't eat it. And so a lot of times with diets, it's very confusing, but I think you're going to see this in the future. Now, getting more nitric oxide in the body, sometimes people really need extra help, and there are supplements that you can take. There's many different types, but L-arginine, L-citrulline are two of the big ones. So this is a company I like. This is Nature's Pure Blend. This is called Nitric Oxide Flow. And what this has in it is L-arginine, L-citrulline in it, and it's got enough to make a difference to lower blood pressure and open up the arteries naturally. So I'll put a link down below in the description that if you want to look at it and see if it's right for you, you get a discount code and all that stuff. And if you'd like to know, are there other things that I can do to increase nitric oxide? There are. Watch this video right here, click the box, and that way you can improve your nitric oxide production and your cardiovascular health.